So how do you think a guy like Jimmy O'Neill could actually not only survive, but thrive in prison after publicly executing four high-ranking members of one of Chicago's most powerful street gangs? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today on this episode of the Shoeshine Boys. So stick around. Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode here of the Shoeshine Boys. Just to give a quick recap, last week was the first episode, Chapter 1, and we were introduced to Jimmy O'Neill. If you go back, if you're starting fresh today, if it's the first time you've ever been here, I really encourage you to go back and listen to the first chapter, because these are obviously, it's an overview of a book that I've written called The Shoeshine Boys, and it's going to be in order. The chapters are going to be in order, so you don't want to jump in at chapter 2, 3, 4. Start from the beginning. There'll be a playlist that you can click on, and I'll be adding to the playlist every week, so this way you can just go ahead and watch each and listen to each episode in order. But last week we were introduced to Jimmy O'Neill. I won't go into too much detail, but if you remember, Jimmy, he pulls up in his car. He's mid-20s, maybe about 27, 28, good-looking guy, very sharp-dressed. He has an issue with some men that he sees up, some gangbangers primarily, that pull up in the car across the street that go into Danny's place, a bar that used to be something, but now it's just basically a haven for gang activity and scumbags. But these particular guys that went into the bar were, from the tattoos on their neck, were identified as members of the Crimson Kings, a local gang that operate out of Danny's place. Jimmy, obviously, he didn't he didn't really have any good feelings towards them. As soon as he seen him, he got tensed up, and his just the way he reacted, you could tell he had some previous experience with these men. Anyway, long story short, he goes into his club 88, immaculate place, lovely, he's treated very well there by the staff. He runs the place. It's a reflection of who he is as a man. He gets a phone call from a guy by the name of Polak. The Polak goes, and he's a crooked cop who's on Jimmy's payroll, gives him some information. Jimmy goes into almost like a trance, becomes hyper-focused, just puts the phone down, walks out of the bar, goes to his car, gets out a semi-automatic, walks into Danny's place, then just basically walks up and in cold blood kills all four of the Crimson King members. He then puts the gun down on the bar, tells Danny, the owner, that after having a drink, he pours himself a good stiff drink, and he basically says, "Oh, go ahead now, do me a favor, call the cops." That's just a recap real quick of Chapter 1. But again, go back and listen to it in its entirety. So you start from there. So, what? Also, too, sorry, thanks. I had asked you last week to help me name the chapter, because I was kind of torn. I was kind of torn between the titles Blood on the Floor and the Crimson Kings Massacre. I'm kind of still leaning towards Blood on the Floor. But again, if you do have any opinions on that, go ahead and leave me comments. And also, too, and again, I want this to be a collaboration. Any comments that you think that could make the story better, because I haven't published the book yet. I've written 39 chapters, but I haven't published it yet. So please go ahead, put your thoughts in there. Let's make this a collaboration. I want to form somewhat of a community, I suppose. Of creative writers and people who are passionate about crime books and crime films, and we can kind of collaborate and make the perfect crime novel here. So again, thoughts would be greatly appreciated. Give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down, give me some comments on what you like. So enough about that. Let's jump into chapter number 2. Now, chapter number 2, the current working title, is called A Model Prisoner. Okay? And we're going to be introduced to another main character. A few main characters, actually, in this chapter. Last week we were introduced to mainly Jimmy, The Crimson Kings as well shortly, but we also, a couple other people as well, like Kowalski. But this week we're going to start off with a journalist by the name of Pamela Burns. Now, Pamela Burns, she's a seasoned journalist, and she's probably mid-30s, an attractive woman, very good at her job. She works for the Chicago Tribune, and the chapter starts out with her driving in her car. She's listening to the radio. She's fiddling around trying to get in the station, but she's out in the sticks in the middle of nowhere trying to tune in something and can't really get anything. A couple religious stations, things like that. She gets frustrated, just turns it off, lights up a cigarette, takes a couple drags before we see in the background, or not the background, I guess, in the line of view ahead, she sees the sign for Deerfield Correctional Facility, which is a maximum security prison. And that's where she's going. She has a meeting set in the prison, and you're going to find out a little bit of what that's all about. But it's Deerfield Correctional Facility is the name of the maximum security prison. So she pulls into the parking lot. She gets out, just her makeup and things like that. She wants to look professional. Again, an attractive woman, mid-30s or so. And she goes through security, has to present her IDs, all the security checks when you're walking into a maximum security prison. She says she has a meeting with Warden Jacob. She's meeting with the warden, okay, who's going to be another main character, actually, in the book here. So she goes through all the scannings and everything else, and when she gets through with everything, she's greeted by a guy by the name of Officer Daniels. Now, Officer Daniels is, he's a senior guard there. He's been there for a while. He's a very broad man, very strong, like a rock. He stands at about 6'3". He's a black man. He's very strong, very broad, very serious, very stern. He greets her and he tells her, introducing himself, and says, I'm going to escort you to Warden Jacobs. So they're going, he's escorting her to the prison. She tries to make small talk with him. He answers, but he doesn't really share too much. The main thing that comes out, she asks him how long he's been at the prison. He's been there for 25 years. So he's been there a while. He's seen a lot. And we're going to learn more about Officer Daniels as we go on. But he escorts her to the warden's office. And when she gets to the warden's office, he asks her to take a seat outside. He goes in and talks to the warden for a moment, comes back and says, the warden will see you now, holds the door open. She walks in. Right away, the warden is behind the desk. One of the first things she notices is how meticulous everything is. He, as you might expect for a man in his position, he's very controlling. Everything has got to be perfect as far as the way the pens line up on his desk, as far as, the tidiness of the place, the way he's dressed, everything. His hair. He's an older man, maybe mid-50s, salt and pepper hair. He gets up and he greets her, and right away she shakes his hand and says, Warden Jacobs. Warden Jacobs, very good to meet you. I really appreciate you taking the time to go ahead and, give me this meeting today. And right away he just says to her, no thank you is necessary. Something to the effect that, I'm not, I agree to it because I'm a fan. He says, as a matter of fact, he says, your piece on corruption in City Hall was a masterpiece. He's referring to a series of articles that she had written to the Chicago Tribune. So she makes a joke. She says, well, I'm not sure if the mayor would would agree with you, but again, I appreciate it. So then he says to her, he says something to the effect of, well, I hope you're not looking for anything like that here. And she says, no, relax, I'm not looking for anything, any corruption or anything here. As a matter of fact, quite the opposite. And he says to her, well, that's intriguing. What is it? And she goes on to explain that what she's doing is she's working on a new series of articles, and it's called Redemption. And Redemption primarily is going to be she's going to do a deep dive into 3 prisoners from 3 different prisons. And it's primarily she wants to show prisoners that are serving a life sentence. Those are the conditions, she says. They have to be serving a life sentence, be in for a violent crime. They have to primarily be at least 10 years into the sentence, and they have to be making a real attempt to go ahead and right the wrong that they did. They have to be remorseful for the crimes that they committed, but they also have to be able to contributing to society, making the place, the prison or society, or doing something to really, I suppose, make the world a better place. So, and she says, primarily that's the reason that she's there. She's hoping that the warden might have a prisoner that fits that description. She doesn't have anybody in mind. She's just there to see what's on offer, I suppose. So the warden doesn't take long at all. He says, I think you're in luck. I might have somebody for you. He goes over and he picks up the phone. He says to the person in the administration, bring me the file on Jimmy O'Neill or James O'Neill in Sector 11. And he says, I might have just a guy for you. Name is James O'Neill. He's been here for 14 years. And primarily, he's a very interesting guy. He was a very successful businessman, young, owned a lot of real estate, owned a club, involved in the numerous different businesses, never had any issues with the law whatsoever. He was never arrested, never did any convictions. Matter of fact, he was model. He never did anything that we could find. But then all of a sudden one day, what does he do? He basically just snaps, walks into a bar. He kills 4 high-ranking members of the Crimson Kings in cold blood. Then he puts the gun down on the bar. He turns himself in. You might remember, it was 15 years ago at this stage, because Jimmy's been in there now for almost 15 years since he actually did that. And he says, it was a big thing in the paper. There was a lot of headlines, a lot of talk. There was a lot of speculation that maybe he was involved in organized crime and things like that. But again, no record. They could never pin anything on him. But he basically he never really gave the public what they were looking for, because they were looking, to find out why did he do this, and a man like him, why would he just throw everything away and just walk in and kill 4 men? But he never gave them anything other than he showed up with his lawyers, obviously, went to court, but just pleaded guilty. He pleaded guilty, and he never gave any information why he did what he did. He just sat in silence, put his plea in, got sentenced, and now he's there for 14 years. But he says the interesting thing is, since he's been here, he's been a model prisoner. He went back to college. He got his degree. As a matter of fact, he got an MBA in business. And he primarily not only got an MBA, but he started a course for small businesses. He's helping the inmates primarily to go ahead and start small businesses when they get out, so they can go ahead and they can, work their way back into society, and they don't have to worry about getting low-paying jobs and things like that. He helps them get grants. He helps them create their business plans. And, as a matter of fact, he's actually, a few of the people that he's worked with have gone on to become quite successful. He's really making an impact here at the prison. Very interesting guy. I think he might be somebody exactly what you're looking for. So she says, wonderful. I'd love the opportunity. Just as she's talking, door opens up. Officer Daniels comes back in. He's got the file. He's got the file on Jimmy O'Neill. He puts it down in front of the warden. The warden picks it up, holds it for a moment, looks at her, and he says, I tell you what. He puts the file in front of her. He says, take this file. Officer Daniels will escort you to a room that you can basically spend as much time as you need. Review the file. If you think that he's definitely a prisoner you would like to talk to, perfect. What I can do is I can arrange a series of interviews with him. So she said that would be fantastic. She's very grateful, very appreciative. But the whole time, maybe this is just the fact that she's a journalist, she get this feeling that he's a little bit too calculated, the warden. He's very polished. And again, for a man in his position, you would expect that. She feels there's a bit of false charm to him. And that maybe there's another agenda. But again, she doesn't know anything. She's just kind of picking up, a vibe, so to speak, from him. So anyway, she thanks him very much. She takes the file, and primarily Officer Daniel escorts her to this, I guess, like an interview room. It's kind of dingy. The whole prison is dingy. It's as you may expect. It's not a happy place at all. But it's kind of cold. But anyway, she's in this room, big all by herself, big metal table, and she's going through all the information. And yeah, he sounds like a perfect guy. It's exactly as the warden said. He was a really, a successful guy. For he was 28 years old when he came in. They never had anything on him. He had never been convicted, anything. And then all of a sudden, boom, just like that, he just walks into a bar, kills 4 high-ranking members of the Crimson Kings. Never gives an explanation at all. Just sits there, pleads guilty, and that's it. But yeah, he's been a model prisoner. Not one write-up since he's been in. No issues, no challenges, no nothing. Just doing exactly what he's supposed to do. And again, he is gone and he's got his MBA. He's actually helping inmates to go ahead and study and create business plans and start businesses on the outside. So, yeah, he seems like he'd be a really good fit. But she just gets this sense that there's more to the story. Again, she is a journalist, and she's a very good journalist. You're going to find out as the story goes on here. She's a very good journalist. And so she picks up the phone, and she calls her editor. Her editor is a guy by the name of Louis. And she says, she's talking to Louis. She's like, look, I've got this guy here. He seems like he could be a good candidate for the Redemption series. I need you to do some digging. Tell me anything you can find out about a guy named Jimmy O'Neill. And she gives all the information, so he can go ahead and, look it up. And she tells a little bit about what happened, how he killed the four high-ranking members. And right away, Louis remembers it. Louis's been around a little bit longer. He's older. He's been in the game longer than she has. And he says, yeah, I remember that. That has something to do with those Shoeshine murders. And she's like, the Shoeshine murders? What was that? And he said, well, about the same time that happened, there were 4 members of the Shoeshine Boys. The Shoeshine Boys, she's going to find out, was a very powerful organized crime syndicate on the south side of Chicago. And primarily, right around that time, there was 4 members of the Shoeshine Boys were murdered in a warehouse. And there was a lot of speculation that was in retaliation, but again, no proof. Jimmy never mentioned anything about it, never claimed that was the reason, never said anything. He just took the punishment. As simple as that. So there's no proof. So right away that intrigued her. She's interested. So she tells Louis, well, look, you put together everything you can get, and if you can leave it in my desk in the office when I get back, I'm gonna investigate it further, and I'm gonna arrange to meet with this individual, this Jimmy O'Neill, see what he's all about, so to speak. So then the chapter kind of ends there, where she's just still going through the file, and that's the introduction to Pamela Burns, who's going to be another major character in here. The Warden, who's going to evolve into a major character as well. And Officer Daniels, he's not major, but he definitely plays a pretty supporting role in the whole thing. So that's the next chapter, chapter 2. We're starting to dig a little bit deeper. We're trying to figure out, why did Jimmy do this? What's the story here? Why did Jimmy give up everything? You're talking about a young guy who had everything. Success, businesses, money, the club, you know, and then no convictions, nothing, and then just throws it all away. And if he is involved in organized crime, why did he do it himself? Why did he do it so publicly? You know, he knew that as soon as he did that, his life was going to be over. He was throwing everything away. So that's where we're going to pick up in chapter 3. We're going to start trying to find out why Jimmy did all this. So, question for you. What do you think of the title, A Model Prisoner? Okay, I like it. I think it summarizes very good as far as what the chapter is all about. But again, I want this to be a collaboration. I want you to tell me what you like about it. And if you have suggestions, if you don't like it, tell me you don't like it. Put it in the comments. Give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs down. But again, let's make this a collaboration. I really, really do. I appreciate your feedback, and I want your feedback. Now, also, just to let you know, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it in the next chapter or it might be chapter 4. Let's say chapter. I'll commit to it right now. In chapter 3, I'm going to make the entire book available. All 39 chapters available for download. So if you're really interested, if you want to get a PDF, it's long. It's about 400 pages. But I'll send you a copy of the PDF. You can read it. Give me your comments. Again, I'm looking for people to collaborate on this. To read it. Give me some feedback. What you like and what you think could be, tweaked. What could be better about it. That sort of thing. So if you're interested, next week, look for the link for the download. And you can be one of the first people before it's even published to get your copy of the Shoeshine Boys. Okay? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.